Dozens of active militias remain on standby all across the country, ready at any time to defend the United States or an individual state. But as the country has seen acts of violence by anti-government groups over the years, the question has been raised: what is a militia? How do we know if a group of armed people is legal or an unauthorized private militia? What rights do these groups have? How could a new president-elect affect militia activity based on history? KFDM's Jillian Fertig looks into the history of militias in the U.S. and what these groups can and can't do under state and federal laws.
Historians and experts on social movements and conflicts say the modern militia movement in the United States can be traced back to the 1950s.
The anti-government position that they're taking is rooted in the 1950s aggressive actions by the federal government to desegregate society. Truman desegregated the military. The Supreme Court, Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, desegregated the schools. And then you had a series of federal court decisions desegregating interstate transportation.
But most experts, including Dr. Stuart Wright, a professor with Lamar University, are in agreement that the early 1990s are when the true movement was born.
Waco, of course, was a flashpoint for the militia movement that really mobilized, and we saw tens of thousands of people join militia movements. And ever since Waco, that was in 93, we've seen a pretty healthy movement, sometimes backing off and moving more underground, but they've been around for decades.
Wright is referring to the Waco, Texas siege, where a government raid on a compound led to a 51-day standoff between federal agents and a Christian sect called the Branch Davidians. The siege ended when fires destroyed the compound, killing more than 70 people, including 25 children. And this is what Wright says really fueled the anti-government movement, prompting the assembly of hundreds of militias. So what is the legal definition of a militia? According to U.S. law, the militia of the United States consists of, quote, all able-bodied males at least 17 years of age and under 45 years of age who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, and of female citizens of the United States who are members of the National Guard. The classes of the militia are 1. The organized militia, which consists of the National Guard and the Naval Militia, and 2. The unorganized militia, which consists of the members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or the Naval Militia. In other words, they are able-bodied residents between certain ages who may be called forth by the government to defend the United States or an individual state. But this does not give them the legal authority to assemble and activate as the group sees fit. Texas law forbids people to organize as private militias without permission from the state. According to Texas code, quote, a body of persons other than the regularly organized Texas military forces, the armed forces of the United States, or the active militias of another state may not associate as a military company or organization or parade in public with firearms in a municipality of the state, unquote. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled back in 1886 and repeated in 2008 that the Second Amendment does not protect private militias. Wright says historically, militias have always been more active and visible during Democratic presidencies.
Those numbers would go up during Democratic administrations and go down during Republican administrations. So during the 8 years of Bush, those numbers actually declined, and then they went back up when Obama was elected. And then when Trump was elected, he defied that pattern.
Wright says he believes President Trump defied that pattern because he openly made comments to empower those groups.
Trump sent plenty of coded messages from day one that he was elected to those groups and emboldened them.
And with a new projected president-elect, Wright says it's a wait-and-watch situation to see if the historical patterns will again be defied or if history will repeat itself.
These groups are not going to go away. They may become more active with the momentum that they got in the last 4 years. It'll be interesting to see how they take this election and how they take kind of the post-Trump world that they're going to live in for the next 4 years.
According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, there are currently 38 active anti-government patriot groups in the state of Texas. 5 of those are denoted as militias.